She looked me in the eyes and said, "You're not enough for me. I want more excitement." Months later, she came back begging, so I walked away without looking back. I'm 34, and if you had told me a couple of years ago that I'd end up telling a story like this, I would have laughed it off. I always thought I had a good sense for people, that I could spot dishonesty or betrayal before it ever got close. I was wrong. For 3 years, I was with a woman named Emily. To me, she was everything I thought I wanted: sharp, ambitious, and someone who could light up a room just by walking in. I wasn't naive about relationships. I knew they took effort, patience, and for a long time, I truly believed that's what we were building together. We shared more than just time. We built routines, morning coffee together, weekend grocery runs that somehow always turned into small adventures. Even the little quirks, like the way she'd hum while folding laundry or insist on rearranging the couch cushions every Sunday, those became part of my definition of home. But slowly, things started to shift. At first, it was subtle. She started going out more, saying she was catching up with coworkers. I didn't think much of it. Everyone needs their own space. But then her phone was always face down on the table. She started dressing differently, not in a bad way, but in a way that felt deliberate, like she wanted to impress someone new. I asked her about it once, gently. Instead of reassuring me, she turned it back on me, accusing me of being insecure, even controlling. That cut deep. I didn't want to be the jealous boyfriend, so I backed off, convinced myself I was overthinking. But the signs kept piling up. Her laughter felt different. Her attention drifted when we were together. Conversations that used to flow naturally now felt forced, like she was mentally somewhere else. The breaking point came one Friday night. She said she had a late meeting, nothing unusual by that point. But by some mistake, or maybe fate, her location popped up on my phone through Find My iPhone. She wasn't anywhere near the office. She was across town at a bar I knew well. My chest tightened. I told myself maybe she just went for a drink with coworkers after all. But I couldn't shake the feeling, so I drove over. Walking into that place felt like stepping into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. There she was, sitting across from another man. Her posture, her smile, the way she leaned in and touched his arm. It was the exact way she used to touch mine when we first fell in love. I froze for a second, then forced myself forward. When she noticed me, her expression wasn't guilt or fear. It was annoyance, like I was an interruption. I asked her what was going on, and she looked me straight in the eyes and said the words I'll never forget. "We're done. You're not enough for me anymore. I want more excitement." Just like that. No hesitation. I can't explain the feeling in that moment. It wasn't just pain. It was a mix of disbelief and clarity crashing into me all at once. The woman I thought I knew, the one I thought I'd spend my life with, had already checked out. I was nothing more than a placeholder until something better came along. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I turned and walked out of that bar, leaving her and that man behind. That night, as I sat in silence, I knew one thing for sure. Everything I thought I had was gone. Those words she said at the bar, "You're not enough for me. I want more excitement," stayed with me like a scar. I went home that night, numb, unable to process how 3 years could end in a single sentence. The next morning, I packed her things into boxes. No yelling, no dramatic scene. I just texted her that her stuff was ready to be picked up. When she came, she didn't even look at me. She acted like we were strangers, like I had somehow been erased. And just like that, she was gone, moving into another life with someone else. The first weeks were brutal. I'd wake up expecting her to be there, roll over, and feel nothing but an empty space. The routines we once shared mocked me. Grocery shopping alone, cooking for one, evenings spent staring at the ceiling wondering what I had done wrong. But eventually, the grief turned into fuel. I realized I had two choices: stay stuck in the betrayal or start rebuilding myself piece by piece. So, I chose the second. I went no contact, deleted her number, blocked her social media, cut out every avenue she had to reach me. Not because I hated her, but because I knew I couldn't heal if I kept reopening the wound. I started hitting the gym more seriously, partly to keep busy, partly to feel in control of something. The physical changes came slowly, but every pound lifted, every drop of sweat. It was like proof I could push forward. I worked longer hours, not to escape, but to remind myself I still had purpose outside of the relationship. And maybe the most important part, I reconnected with friends I'd neglected. People who had been there all along, waiting for me to stop pouring everything into someone who never valued it. Months passed, and little by little, I started to feel alive again. The pain didn't vanish, but it transformed. What once crushed me became a strange kind of strength. I realized I had given her too much power, and now I was taking it back. Then, 6 months later, she reappeared. It started with a text. "Hey, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but can we talk?" I stared at it, thumb hovering over the screen. For a second, old instincts whispered at me, memories of us laughing together, nights we thought we'd last forever. But then reality hit. She had walked out on me without hesitation. I didn't reply. A week later, another message came. I miss you. I made a mistake. This time, I deleted it without responding. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. The calls started coming. Unknown numbers at first, then her name flashing on my phone. I ignored them all, until one evening, after weeks of silence, I picked up. Her voice caught me off guard. It wasn't the confident, dismissive tone she had when she ended things. It was shaky, almost desperate. She told me the man she left me for had cheated on her, lied to her, and eventually ghosted her. Her better option had turned out to be nothing more than a dead end. She said she realized how good we had it, how much she missed the stability, the love, the loyalty I gave her. She wanted to meet, to talk things out. I sat there, phone to my ear, listening. A storm brewed inside me. Anger, a hint of pity. 6 months ago, she had tossed me aside like nothing. And now, because her new world had crumbled, she was reaching back for me like I was some kind of safety net. I didn't give her an answer that night. I just said, I'll think about it, and hung up. But deep down, I already knew. Her coming back wasn't about me. It was about what I had provided, the comfort, the loyalty, the effort she no longer had. When she reached out again, it wasn't just a casual attempt at reconnection. It was almost as if she wanted to rewrite the story. She tried to spin it like everything had unfolded the way it was supposed to. Her messages read things like, I know this sounds crazy, but maybe we had to go through all of this to realize what we really mean to each other. You always treated me so well. No one will ever love me like you did. At first, I didn't even know how to react. Part of me laughed bitterly. Another part of me felt this strange, hollow ache, because there was a time when those words would have meant everything to me. But now, they rang empty. The more she spoke, the clearer it became. She wasn't apologizing because she regretted how she'd hurt me. She wasn't acknowledging the betrayal, the night at the bar, the way she'd said I wasn't enough. What she regretted was losing the stability I had given her. It hit me then, she didn't miss me. She missed the version of herself she got to be when I was in her corner. The effort I poured into us. When she talked, her tone wasn't remorseful, it was entitled. Like she expected me to simply erase the past, open the door, and let her back in because now she realized the better option wasn't so great after all. I remember sitting on my couch, phone in hand, listening to her voice crack as she said, I know I made mistakes, but you're different. You're the one person who will always forgive me. I need you. My chest tightened. Inside, it felt like a storm. Anger boiling, sadness tugging, and disbelief circling it all. There was a time when hearing her cry would have broken me. But now it just sounded hollow. I thought back to that night at the bar, the way she looked right at me and said I wasn't enough. No hesitation, no second thoughts, just cold dismissal. That memory anchored me in place. And now, months later, here she was, acting like the door to my life was a revolving one she could walk in and out of whenever her excitement didn't pan out. I didn't explode on her. I didn't curse or yell. I just listened quietly, letting her talk herself in circles. The more she tried to dress it up as fate, the more obvious it became that this wasn't about love. It was about fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over without a safety net. At one point she said, you know, maybe I had to leave to realize how much I loved you. Maybe this is proof we're meant to be. That line stuck with me, not because it was touching, but because it revealed the mindset behind it. She wanted to turn betrayal into some grand love story. She wanted me to ignore the reality that she had walked out without a second thought when she thought she had something better. And as much as part of me wanted to lash out, I didn't. I stayed calm, because deep down I knew something important. This wasn't my storm anymore. Emily wasn't reaching out because of who I was. She was reaching out because of what I had provided. And that difference changed everything. After weeks of back and forth messages, I finally agreed to meet her. Not because I wanted her back. By then, I knew better. But a part of me wanted to hear her out face to face, to put the whole thing to rest. We chose a small coffee shop downtown, the same one we used to visit on Sunday mornings after grocery runs. Back then, it was our little ritual. Walking in now felt strange, like stepping into a memory I no longer belonged to. When I saw her, I barely recognized her. Emily used to carry herself with this air of confidence, almost a spark that made people turn their heads. But that day, it was gone. She looked drained, like someone who had been carrying too much for too long. She tried to smile when I sat down, but it didn't reach her eyes. And before I even said a word, the tears started. I can't believe what a mistake I made, she said, voice low but shaky. I thought I was chasing something better, but it was all a lie. He had money, he had this exciting energy, but in the end, he cheated on me and left me with nothing. I just sat there listening. I didn't interrupt. I didn't offer comfort. I wanted to hear every word. She kept going, almost spilling everything at once. I thought he could give me more than you ever could, but he didn't care about me the way you did. You were steady, loyal. I threw that away. I threw you away. And I don't know how I could have been so blind. Her words should have stung, but they didn't. Not in the way I expected. Instead, it felt like watching someone reap exactly what they'd sown. I wasn't gloating, but I couldn't deny there was a strange sense of vindication. Karma had done what I never could. Then she said the line that made my stomach tighten. You're a good man. I know you'll forgive me. I'm ready to come home now. I leaned back in my chair, letting the weight of those words sink in. Come home. As if my life was some hotel she could check out of when something shinier came along, only to return when it didn't work out. As if the betrayal, the nights I spent alone trying to piece myself back together, were just small details in some bigger love story she was trying to sell me. I looked at her and realized just how entitled it was. She wasn't here because she loved me. She was here because her better option had crashed and burned, and she wanted the comfort of what she had thrown away. She wiped at her tears, leaned forward, and whispered, "We can fix this. I know we can. Just give me another chance. I'll make it right this time." But I couldn't unhear those words from the bar months ago. You're not enough for me. They rang louder in my head than any apology ever could. In that moment, I knew. No matter what she said, no matter how broken she looked, the woman sitting across from me wasn't the same one I once loved. She was a stranger, and the door she thought was still open had been closed for a long time. I sat there for a long moment, letting her words hang in the air. She was still crying softly, looking at me like she expected I'd eventually reach across the table, take her hand, and tell her everything would be fine. But instead, I leaned back, looked her in the eyes, and said calmly, "Home? You walked out of this home the moment you betrayed me. You don't get to come back just because you're lonely." Her expression froze. She wasn't expecting that. Tears welled faster, spilling over as she whispered, "But I love you." I shook my head. "No, you don't love me, Emily. You loved what I gave you, my loyalty, my stability, my effort. But when you thought you found something better, you left without hesitation. That's not love. That's convenience. And I don't want to be anyone's backup plan." Her hands trembled as she reached across the table, trying to touch mine, but I pulled back. For the first time, she looked truly panicked. "I've changed," she said quickly, her words tumbling out in desperation. "I know I messed up, but I've learned from it. I was stupid, and I promise, I'll make it up to you. I'll do whatever it takes. Please, we can rebuild this." Her voice cracked on the last word. A year ago, hearing her cry would have broken me in two. But now, it just felt empty. The truth was staring me right in the face. This wasn't about me. This was about her fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over without the safety net I once provided. She wasn't here because she wanted me. She was here because she wanted the comfort she had lost. I could see it in her eyes. This wasn't genuine regret. It was desperation. She wanted to rewind time and erase the consequences of her choices, but only because the man she left me for had already shown her what betrayal felt like. And I wasn't about to let myself become her second choice. I exhaled slowly, steadying myself. "Emily," I said, my tone firm but calm, "you chose someone else. You made it clear I wasn't enough. That's not something you come back from. I can't forget the way you looked at me that night and told me you wanted more excitement. Those words don't just disappear." Her face twisted in pain, and she shook her head violently. "I didn't mean it like that. I was confused, I thought." I cut her off gently but firmly. "No, you meant it. Maybe not in those exact words, but you meant every bit of it. You wanted more, and when you thought you found it, you didn't hesitate to throw me away. That's who you were. And maybe you've realized the grass isn't greener, but that doesn't mean I should forget what you did." Her pleading grew louder, almost frantic. "Don't do this. Please. You know me. You know my heart. I'm begging you, give me one more chance." I sat there, watching her unravel across the table. And for the first time in a long time, I felt calm. Not angry, not bitter, just calm. Because I knew exactly what I had to do. Her words kept spilling out. Promises of change, desperate pleas, even half-formed plans for what our new beginning could look like. But the more she spoke, the more I realized none of it was about me. They weren't about the nights I lay awake trying to figure out what went wrong. They weren't about the loyalty and effort I had poured into us. They weren't even about the betrayal itself. They were about her fear of being alone, her fear of starting over without a net to fall back on, her fear that she had burned the only bridge that had ever carried her through rough waters. For once, though, I didn't feel small under that weight. I didn't feel crushed by her tears or manipulated by her words. I felt powerful, not because I wanted revenge, but because I finally understood my worth. She had taken me for granted, but now the tables had turned. And the truth was simple. I had nothing left to give her. I sat back in my chair, calm, and let her talk herself into silence. She leaned forward, eyes searching mine for any flicker of softness, but there was none left. I reached into my wallet, pulled out a $10 bill, and set it on the table to cover my coffee. My hand didn't shake, my voice didn't rise. I just said it plainly. I hope you find what you're looking for, but it's not with me. Take care. For a moment, she just stared at me like she hadn't processed the words. Then her lips parted, and another wave of pleading started, but I was already standing. Her voice followed me as I walked toward the door, each word more frantic than the last, but I didn't turn around. I didn't know her that anymore. When I pushed the door open, the cool air outside hit me like a reset button. I stepped onto the street, and for the first time in months, I felt completely free. Not just free of her, but free of the weight I'd been carrying since that night in the bar. Behind me, life inside the cafe went on. People laughed, mugs clinked, the espresso machine hissed. And in front of me, the world stretched open, ready for whatever came next. I didn't look back. That night, after I left the coffee shop, my phone buzzed nonstop. At first it was short texts. Please don't shut me out. I can explain better. Just one more chance. Then the messages grew longer. Paragraphs, walls of text, all pouring out apologies and promises. She wrote about how she had been blind, how she didn't realize what she had until it was gone, how she was ready to do anything to make it right. I opened the first few, skimmed through, but quickly realized it was the same story over and over. Regret wrapped in desperation, dressed up as love. By the third message, I stopped reading altogether. She wasn't writing to me. She was writing to the version of me she thought would always be there, waiting, ready to catch her when she fell. The version she discarded without hesitation when something better appeared. And that man, the one who would have believed her, who would have given in because of old memories, that man didn't exist anymore. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the settings on my phone, blocked her number, and set the phone down. It was almost anticlimactic, how simple it was. One swipe, one tap, and the door was closed for good. For a long time, I thought closure would come from answers. Why she left, why I wasn't enough, why love wasn't enough to keep her around. But sitting there in the quiet of my apartment, I realized closure doesn't come from someone else. It comes from choosing yourself, from deciding your worth more than being someone's backup plan. Emily thought she could walk out, chase excitement, and when that crumbled, return to the safety of my arms. She thought I'd still be there, unchanged, waiting. But that's not how life works. Once trust is broken, once someone shows you how little you mean when they think they've found better, you can't unsee it. And the truth? The sweetest revenge isn't anger. It isn't yelling or making her feel what I felt. The sweetest revenge is indifference. Because while she was sending me pages of apologies, begging me to reopen the door, I was finally free. Free of the weight of betrayal, free of the constant what-ifs, free of the idea that love means sacrificing yourself for someone who doesn't value you. That night, I slept soundly in my bed, the same bed that used to feel unbearably empty. Only this time, it didn't feel like something was missing. It felt like I had space again, space to breathe, to heal, to move forward. Emily became a chapter in my life, not the whole story. A lesson, not a future. And in some strange way, I was grateful, not for the betrayal itself, but for what it taught me. That no matter how much you give, you can't control how someone else values it. And that walking away, with your dignity intact, is sometimes the strongest thing you can do. So when I think back on it now, I don't feel anger. I don't feel sadness. I just feel free. And maybe that's the point. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.